I never believed in that whole dreams coming true thing until I started working the graveyard shift at Quick Stop on Highway 287 outside Fort Worth. The pay was decent enough, and honestly, I needed the quiet after dealing with people all day at my regular job. Most nights were pretty standard: restock the energy drinks, count the register, maybe help some trucker grab coffee and beef jerky. The fluorescent lights hummed like they were trying to tell me secrets, and the security cameras blinked their red eyes at me every few seconds. But something weird started happening around my third week. I'd been having this recurring dream where I'm working my usual shift, right? Everything looks normal: same cracked linoleum, same flickering light above the Slurpee machine, same smell of stale coffee and disinfectant. But in the dream, there's always this woman who comes in exactly at 2:17 a.m. She's maybe 40, wearing this faded yellow sundress that looks like it belongs in the 80s. Her hair is stringy and wet, like she just got out of the shower or something. But here's the thing that really freaked me out: she never speaks. She just walks straight to the back cooler, grabs a single can of Coke, and pays with exact change. Every time. Same routine, same silence. In the dream, I always try to say something to her, like, "Hey, how's your night going?" or "Crazy weather, huh?" But she just stares at me with these hollow eyes, drops the coins on the counter, and walks out. The door chime sounds different when she leaves, lower, sadder, like it's mourning something. I had this dream maybe 15 times before it actually happened. It was a Tuesday night in October, and I was feeling pretty drowsy around 2 a.m. I'd already done my cigarette inventory and was thinking about brewing a fresh pot of coffee when I heard a car pull up outside. Through the window, I could see this beat-up sedan with one headlight out, just sitting there with the engine running. The digital clock above the register flipped to 2:17 a.m., and that's when she walked in. Dude, I'm telling you, my blood went cold. Same yellow sundress, same wet hair, same empty stare. She moved exactly like she did in my dreams, slow, deliberate steps toward the back cooler. I watched her grab that Coke, and my hands were literally shaking as I rang her up. "That'll be $1.50, I managed to say, my voice cracking like I was 13 again. She didn't respond. Just placed the exact change on the counter with a dollar bill, 2 quarters, and headed for the door. The chime sounded exactly like it did in my dreams, that low, haunting tone that seemed to echo way longer than it should have. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes after she left, just staring at the door and trying to convince myself it was some crazy coincidence. But man, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. The next night, I had the dream again. But this time, it was different. The woman in the yellow dress came in at 2:17 like always, but when she reached for the Coke, her reflection in the cooler door showed something else entirely. Instead of her face, I saw this mangled mess of flesh and bone, like she'd been in some horrific accident. Her mouth was moving, but no sound came out, and her eyes were pleading with me to understand something. I woke up in a cold sweat and immediately called my manager. I made up some excuse about feeling sick and got someone to cover my shift. No way was I going back there. But curiosity got the better of me. The next morning, I drove past the gas station and noticed something that made my stomach drop. There was yellow police tape wrapped around the building, and 2 cop cars were parked outside. I pulled into the parking lot and asked one of the officers what happened. He told me they'd found a body in the storage room behind the main store, a woman who'd been missing for 3 weeks. She was wearing a yellow sundress and had been dead for at least 2 weeks, probably longer. The really messed up part? Security footage showed her entering the store at 2:17 a.m. on multiple nights over the past month, always buying the same thing, always paying with exact change. But according to the coroner, she'd been dead the entire time. The officer showed me her driver's license photo. It was definitely her, the woman from my dreams, the woman I'd served that Tuesday night. Her name was Sarah Chen, and she'd gone missing after leaving a friend's house in nearby Weatherford. They never figured out who killed her or how her body ended up in that storage room. The security footage was too grainy to make out any other details, and there were no witnesses except for me, and what I saw couldn't possibly have been real. I quit that job the same day. Found work at a 24-hour diner across town where the lights are bright and there's always at least 3 people around. But sometimes, late at night when I'm lying in bed, I still hear that door chime, low and sad and wrong. The dream stopped after they found Sarah's body, but I can't shake the feeling that she was trying to tell me something during those visits. Maybe she was trapped somehow, reliving her last moments over and over until someone finally noticed. I still drive past that gas station sometimes, and I swear I can see her silhouette in the window, standing by the back cooler with that same hollow stare. The place closed down about a month after they found her body. New management said they couldn't get anyone to work the night shift. Can't say I blame them. When I tell people about what happened at the Shell station on Route 9 in Freehold, New Jersey, they usually get this look like I'm making it up. I wish I was. Some nights I still wake up tasting that metallic fear in my mouth, remembering how close I came to joining Danny and Marcus in the back room. I was 22 and working the midnight to 8 shift at the station to pay for my automotive tech certification. The money was decent, and honestly, I liked the quiet. Most nights I'd stock the coolers, clean the coffee machines, and help the occasional trucker or insomniac grab snacks. The worst thing that usually happened was some drunk college kid trying to buy beer without ID. That changed on October 15, 2019. My shift partner that night was Danny Rodriguez, this really good dude who was saving up to propose to his girlfriend. We'd been working together for about 6 months, and he had this annoying habit of humming classic rock songs while he restocked the candy aisle. That Tuesday night, he was humming Sweet Child O' Mine when Marcus Thompson walked in around 2:30 a.m. Marcus was maybe 30, tall and wiry with these intense dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything. He'd been coming in sporadically for a few weeks, always buying the same thing: the large black coffee, a pack of Marlboro Reds, and a bag of Fritos. Always paid cash, never made small talk. There was something about him that made my skin crawl, but I couldn't put my finger on what. "Evening, Marcus," Danny said, because he was friendly to everyone. "The usual?" Marcus nodded and walked toward the coffee station. That's when I noticed his hands were shaking as he poured the coffee. Not like he was nervous, more like he was trying to control something inside him. He spilled a little on the counter and just stared at it for a long moment before grabbing napkins. While Danny rang him up, Marcus kept glancing at the security camera above the register. "That thing always recording?" he asked, his voice flat and weird. "Yeah, man," Danny replied. "Company policy. You know how it is." Marcus paid his $8.73 in exact change, which should have been our first red flag. Who carries exact change for that random amount? He pocketed his items and headed for the door, but then stopped and turned back to us. "You guys ever think about what happens after?" he asked. Danny looked confused. "After what?" "After everything ends. After the cameras stop rolling." Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "After people stop caring." Before either of us could respond, he walked out. Through the window, I watched him get into this beat-up Honda Civic and just sit there for maybe 10 minutes, engine running, staring at the store. Then he drove off into the night. "That dude gives me the creeps," I told Danny. "Nah, he's harmless," Danny said, going back to his humming. "Just lonely, probably." 2 nights later, Marcus came in again at almost the exact same time. Same routine, same products, same exact change. But this time, when he got to the door, he paused and looked directly at me. "Shane, right?" he said, and my blood went cold because I'd never told him my name. My name tag said S. Mitchell, company policy for security reasons. "How do you know my name?" I asked. He smiled that empty smile again. "I know lots of things. Like how Danny here has been looking at engagement rings online during his breaks. Like how you keep a baseball bat under the counter even though corporate says no weapons. Like how the safe timer resets at 3 a.m. every night." Danny had stopped humming. We both stared at Marcus, who was just standing there like he'd commented on the weather. "Have a good night, boys," he said, and walked out. I immediately called my manager, but he was useless. "File a report if he threatens you," he said. "Otherwise, we can't ban customers for being weird." The next night, I convinced Danny to call in sick. Something about Marcus felt wrong, like a storm building on the horizon. I worked alone, jumping at every sound, checking the cameras constantly. Marcus didn't show up, and I started to think maybe I'd overreacted. I was wrong. The following Tuesday, exactly 1 week after his first weird comment, Marcus walked in at 2:30 a.m. But this time, he wasn't alone. Another guy followed him in, shorter and stockier, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. They didn't look at each other, didn't acknowledge each other, but I could tell they were together. Marcus went through his usual routine, but when he got to the register, he didn't pull out his exact change. Instead, he reached inside his jacket and pulled out a black pistol. "Open the register," he said quietly. "Don't touch the alarm." The other guy moved behind the counter and pointed his gun at Danny, who'd gone pale as a ghost. I remember thinking how this couldn't be real, how stuff like this happened to other people in other places. "Safe," Marcus said. "Open it." "It's on a timer," I stammered. "Doesn't open until 3 a.m. Marcus checked his watch. 23 minutes. "We'll wait." For the next 20 minutes, they made us lie face down behind the counter while they took turns watching the parking lot. Marcus kept talking, but not to us, to himself. mumbling about how nobody would remember our names, how the news would forget about us in a week, how easy it was to disappear people. At 2:53 a.m., Marcus pulled Danny to his feet. "Back room," he said. Now, that's when I knew. I don't know how, but I knew what was about to happen in that storage room. And I knew that once Danny went back there, he wasn't coming out. "Wait," I said, my voice cracking. "I need to use the bathroom." Marcus looked at me like I was insane. "What?" "I'm about to piss myself," I said, which wasn't far from the truth. "Please, man. Just let me use the bathroom first." He considered this for a moment, then nodded to his partner. "Watch him. Make it quick." The bathroom was next to the back office, which had a window that led to the alley behind the store. I'd noticed it during training but never thought I'd need it. As soon as the door closed behind me, I climbed onto the toilet and pushed the window open. It was small, but I was skinny enough to squeeze through. I dropped into the alley and ran. Not to my car if they'd see me, but to the 24-hour laundromat next door. I called 911 from their payphone, whispering that there was a robbery in progress at the Shell station. The cops arrived 4 minutes later. I heard the gunshots from inside the laundromat, 2 quick pops that seemed too small for what they meant. They found Danny and Marcus's partner in the back room, both shot execution style. Marcus was gone, along with about $3,000 from the safe. The security footage showed him leaving through the front door at 3:07 a.m., calm as you please, like he'd just bought his usual coffee and cigarettes. Danny Rodriguez was 24 years old. He'd bought the engagement ring the day before he died. His girlfriend, Maria, brought it to the funeral and placed it on his casket. The police never caught Marcus. They found the Honda Civic abandoned in a parking garage in Newark, wiped clean of prints. The other guy was identified as Carl Brennan, a career criminal with a rap sheet longer than my arm. But Marcus Thompson, if that was even his real name, vanished like smoke. I quit that night. Couldn't even walk past a gas station for months without my hands shaking. Eventually, I finished my certification and got a job at a Ford dealership, working days with lots of people around. But sometimes, late at night when I'm working on a car, I'll catch a glimpse of someone in my peripheral vision. Tall, dark eyes, watching me with that same calculating stare. When I turn to look, there's never anyone there. Just shadows and the echo of that flat voice asking, "You ever think about what happens after?" I still check the news sometimes, searching for similar crimes. Robbery homicides at gas stations, night shift workers executed in back rooms. I've found 3 cases in the past 2 years that match Marcus's pattern. Different states, different names, but the same MO, same cold efficiency. The FBI has a task force now. They call him the night shift killer, and they think he's responsible for at least 7 deaths across 4 states. They say he chooses his targets carefully, studies them for weeks before striking. Always kills the witnesses. Always disappears without a trace. I know I should call them, tell them about Marcus and his weird questions about the cameras and the safe timer. But part of me is terrified that if I draw attention to myself, he'll come back to finish what he started. Because somewhere out there, he knows that Shane Mitchell is the one who got away. Working the overnight shift at the Texaco on Route 202 in Flemington, New Jersey was supposed to be my temporary gig while I figured out my next move after community college. The pay was decent enough, and most nights were pretty chill, just me, the hum of the coolers, and the occasional trucker stopping for energy drinks and gas station burritos. That changed on a humid Thursday night in August 2018. I was about 3 weeks into the job when I first noticed the blue Toyota Camry. It was maybe 1:30 a.m., and I was outside emptying the trash bins when this car pulled up to pump number 4. Nothing unusual about that, people need gas at all hours. But what caught my attention was how the driver just sat there for like 10 minutes without getting out. The engine was running, headlights on, but nobody moved. I kept glancing over while I finished with the garbage, trying to look casual. Finally, the driver's door opened and this guy stepped out. He was probably in his 30s, average height, wearing jeans and a plain gray t-shirt. Nothing that screamed danger, you know? But something about his movements felt off. He walked to the pump real slow, like he was thinking about each step. And he kept looking around, not paranoid, more like he was memorizing the layout. He filled up his tank, paid with a credit card at the pump, and drove off without ever coming inside. I probably would have forgotten about it if he hadn't come back the next night. Same time, same pump, same weird behavior. This time I watched him more carefully through the window. He did the exact same routine, sat in his car for 10 minutes, got out slowly, filled up, and left. But this time, I noticed something else. Before he got back in his car, he walked over to the trash bin I'd been emptying the night before. He stood there for a moment, then reached in and pulled something out. From where I was standing, it looked like he grabbed one of those crumpled lottery tickets people always throw away. He looked at it for a second, then slipped it into his pocket. That's when I started getting freaked out. The third night, I was ready for him. I positioned myself where I could see pump 4 clearly, and sure enough, the blue Camry rolled in at 1:35 a.m. Same routine, but this time after he filled up, he walked toward the store. The door chime seemed louder than usual when he entered. "Evening," I said, trying to sound normal. He just nodded and walked straight to the coffee station. His movements were deliberate, like he'd practiced this. He poured a large black coffee, grabbed a pack of gum from the counter display, and approached the register. "That'll be $3.47, I said. He paid with exact change, which should have been my first red flag. Who carries exact change for such a random amount? As I handed him the receipt, he looked directly at me for the first time. "You work here every night?" he asked, his voice flat and emotionless. "Most nights," I replied, trying to keep it casual. He nodded slowly, like he was filing that information away. "Nice and quiet. Peaceful." "Yeah, it's all right." He picked up his coffee and gum, then paused at the door. "You ever notice how people leave pieces of themselves everywhere? Receipts, cigarette butts, empty cups. Little fragments of their lives just scattered around." I had no idea how to respond to that. I guess." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Have a good night, Kevin." The door chimed as he left, and I stood there frozen. My name tag said K. Rodriguez, company policy for security reasons. I'd never told him my name was Kevin. I called my manager the next morning and told him about the weird customer. He basically brushed it off, said as long as the guy wasn't stealing or threatening anyone, there wasn't much we could do. "File a report if he makes you uncomfortable," he said. Real helpful. That night, I was on edge from the moment I clocked in. I kept expecting the blue Camry to show up, but 1:35 came and went with no sign of him. Same with the next night. I started to think maybe I'd scared him off somehow, or he'd found a different gas station to creep out. I was wrong. The following Tuesday, I was restocking the energy drink cooler when I heard a car pull up outside. Through the glass doors, I could see it was the blue Camry. But this time, something was different. The driver got out immediately and walked straight toward the store, moving with purpose. He pushed through the doors and headed directly to the counter where I was standing. No coffee, no gum, no pretense of being a customer. "Kevin," he said, and my blood went cold. "I need to show you something." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside were what looked like random pieces of trash, a crumpled receipt, a cigarette butt, a bottle cap, and the lottery ticket I'd seen him take from our dumpster. "Do you know what these are?" he asked, holding up the bag. I shook my head, afraid to speak. "These are from Jennifer Martinez, pump 2, last Wednesday around 11 p.m. She bought a Diet Coke and a bag of Doritos. Receipt for $4.23. He pointed to another item. "This is from Robert Chen, pump 6, Friday night. Large coffee, black, and a pack of Camel Lights. He dropped this bottle cap when he was digging for change." My mouth went dry. "How do you know all that?" He smiled that empty smile again. "I pay attention. I collect moments. And the people who create them." That's when I noticed something else in the bag, a small metal object I recognized. It was the key to the bathroom, the one customers had to ask for. We'd been missing it for over a week. Jennifer was working the night shift at the diner on Main Street, he continued conversationally. "Had to use your bathroom around 11:15. She was tired, distracted. Forgot to return the key." My hand moved toward the phone behind the counter, but he saw me. "I wouldn't do that, Kevin. Not when we're just getting to know each other." "What do you want?" I managed to ask. "I want you to understand something. Every person who stops here leaves traces. Fingerprints on the door handles, DNA on coffee cups, patterns in their behavior. You see them as customers. I see them as collections." He leaned closer to the counter. "Jennifer doesn't work at the diner anymore. Robert moved to Pennsylvania last month. But I still have pieces of them. Proof they existed in this exact spot at this exact time." I felt sick. "You're talking about stalking people." "I'm talking about preservation," he corrected. "Memories fade. People forget. But physical evidence lasts forever." He put the bag back in his pocket and pulled out something else, a small digital camera. "I've been documenting everyone who comes through here. Times, dates, what they buy, how they move. Building a catalog." The camera's screen was facing me, and I could see thumbnail images of customers I recognized. People who came in regularly, caught in candid moments pumping gas or walking to their cars. "You're sick," I said. "I'm thorough." He scrolled through more images. Mrs. Patterson comes in every Sunday for cigarettes and scratch-offs. David Kumar stops by after his shift at the hospital. Sarah Chen buys energy drinks when she's driving home from her boyfriend's place. He showed me the screen again, and my stomach dropped. It was a photo of me, taken through the store window while I was working. I was reaching for something on a high shelf, completely unaware I was being watched. You're part of my collection now, Kevin. Whether you like it or not. That's when I lunged for the panic button under the counter. The silent alarm would bring the cops in minutes. But as my hand hit the button, he calmly walked toward the door. "I'll be back," he said. "I always come back for my collections." The police arrived 6 minutes later. I told them everything to the strange customer, the bag of trophies, the camera full of photos. They took my statement and said they'd look into it, but without a license plate number or a real name, there wasn't much they could do. The blue Camry never came back to our station. But 2 weeks later, I saw a news report that made my blood freeze. A gas station attendant in Morristown had been found dead in the storage room of his store. The killer had taken his employee ID badge and left everything else untouched. The victim's name was David Kumar. I remembered him from the photos on that camera. I quit the next day. Couldn't handle the thought of standing behind that counter, knowing someone might be watching, cataloging, collecting. My manager was pissed, but I didn't care. Some jobs aren't worth dying for. 6 months later, there was another incident. This time in Trenton, a night shift worker at a Shell station. Same MO, same missing employee badge. The police think it's the same guy, but they still haven't caught him. I work days now, at a busy auto parts store where there are always people around. But sometimes, when I'm walking to my car after closing, I'll notice someone in my peripheral vision. Someone with a camera or a small plastic bag, watching from the shadows. I never look directly at them, because part of me knows that if I do, if I become interesting enough to catalog again, the collection will be complete. And collections, once they're complete, need to be preserved forever.